Coping with an abandoned ship emergency is a contingency every vessel must prepare for. Vessels can sink or capsize with terrifying speed. The combination of an immersion suit and an inflatable life raft makes your chances of surviving an abandoned ship emergency today far greater than ever before. But merely having the equipment aboard is no guarantee that you'll survive. You've got to know how to use it. As part of your preparation, read the instructions provided by the manufacturers of your survival equipment. Try to anticipate the circumstances that you could someday face and visualize your responses. The more you've thought about survival procedures in advance and the better you know your equipment, the better the chance you'll put it to the best use in a real emergency. Once you've devised contingency plans that are adequate for your vessel, you've got to provide the crew with enough information and training to enable them to act quickly and instinctively in an emergency. The alternative to adequate preparation is panic. You can use books and videotapes like this one to help in crew preparation, and there may be survival courses in your area. Contact your equipment vendor or the Coast Guard for advice. Abandoning ship is the skipper's decision, no one else's. Just as it's a crucial mistake to wait too long to begin survival procedures, abandoning too soon has unnecessarily cost lives. Your boat is the best shelter in all but the most extreme circumstances. And the decision to abandon means that the life raft and the immersion suits have become better shelter than the boat. Many vessels are legally required to carry Coast Guard-approved rafts that must be serviced annually by an agent authorized by the manufacturer. Even with no legal requirement, if your vessel operates offshore or in cold or remote conditions, you should do the same. Vessels that operate in inshore waters and bear no legal requirement to carry approved equipment can substitute coastal or yacht-type rafts that are smaller and less expensive. Because they are not subject to testing or construction requirements, however, rafts of this type can vary widely in quality. The buyer of non-approved gear must use careful judgment and choose equipment built by reputable manufacturers. This rescue platform is an example of an even more compact, less expensive type of survival craft that meets the needs of boaters who operate in mild conditions or protected waters. It's each owner's responsibility to select survival equipment that meets both legal minimums and the special needs of his vessel and the crew. The recommendations that follow refer primarily to approved life rafts. Whatever kind of gear you carry, be sure you're aware of what features it does or doesn't have. Once you've selected a piece of gear, you and your crew need to learn how to use it. The best way is to simulate actual emergencies and walk through the steps that will be required to abandon your vessel in the most efficient manner. If you do hold a practice exercise, don't inflate your raft with the CO2 cylinder because of stress on the fabric and the cost of repacking. Contact your authorized servicing agent. He should be happy to let you and your crew observe as he inflates the raft and inspects the contents during annual maintenance. It is vital that all rafts undergo annual servicing at factory-authorized facilities. Even the best piece of gear may fail to do the job it was designed for if it hasn't been properly serviced. Your servicing facility should have letters from the raft manufacturer and the Coast Guard stating that he's authorized to work on approved models of specific brands of gear. Rafts come in hard canisters and valise packs. Currently, the smallest Coast Guard-approved models have 4-man capacity. A hard canister raft should be stowed on a cradle in a manner that provides easy access and provides a float-free launch if the vessel sinks suddenly. It must be stowed clear of rigging or superstructures that could interfere with its ability to float free. The life raft canister should be secured to the cradle by a hydrostatic release that is activated by water pressure if the vessel sinks suddenly. There should be no other lashings or tie-downs that restrict the raft from floating free. To launch the raft manually, release the pelican hook on the raft's tie-down strap, or strike the trigger on the hydrostatic release and lift the canister off the cradle. Whenever it's handled, the canister must be treated carefully to prevent punctures and ensure that the watertight gasket remains intact. Carry the canister upright. Rolling the raft down the dock or turning it upside down could cause the painter to foul and inhibit inflation. The bands that hold the canister together are designed to break automatically during launching. As soon as the canister is installed in the cradle, the painter should be attached to the vessel structure and should remain attached whenever the vessel is at sea. The painter-to-vessel connection includes a weak link designed to break during a float-free launch. Try to launch the raft before the emergency reaches the crisis stage. Many vessels stow the raft on the housetop or in some other out-of-the-way location where it doesn't interfere with normal operations. When it's time to abandon ship, however, it's preferable to launch and board the raft from the lowest point above the water. You need to strike the best available compromise on your boat between what's convenient in terms of stowage and what is workable when it's time to launch the life raft. It may be extremely difficult to reach the stowage area and launch the raft manually in heavy seas. If your raft is stowed atop the house or in some other hard-to-reach location, consider installing tow rails or non-skid around the cradle to provide better footing and devise a means of lowering the raft to the deck during a controlled abandonment. Before launching the raft manually, change the painter-to-vessel connection so the full strength of the painter line takes the place of the weak link. Pull out a few feet of painter line from the canister and belay it to the cleat located on the raft cradle or some other nearby strong point. In most cases, the raft should be launched over the lee side or the wind will pin it to the vessel and create the potential of damage to the fabric. The presence of hazards like smoke or debris may alter this rule. Pulling the painter out to its full length activates the inflation. The painter on a Coast Guard-approved raft is a minimum of 100 feet long. Wait for full inflation with the canopy erect before boarding. Your raft will probably overinflate, and you'll hear the sound of air escaping through the pressure relief valve. This doesn't mean that the raft is defective. The sound should cease quickly. If you can, board the raft directly without getting wet. Staying dry is the first rule of survival in cold water. If the distance is short, step or jump directly into the canopy entrance. You may be able to use a ladder, net, or line to get yourself close enough to the canopy entrance to board directly. Raft canopies are designed to withstand the impact of people jumping on them from a height of 15 feet. But only attempt to jump onto the canopy as a last resort. If the height is more than a few feet, jumping onto the canopy may cause injury to you or someone inside, or may cause you to bounce overboard and wind up in the water. If you must enter the water, do so as close as possible to the raft and try to hold on to the painter. Without the painter to hold on to, you could be swept beyond the raft. Above all, think before you jump. Jump from the lowest possible point and beware of hazards below you. If the raft is inverted, right it by means of the righting strap on the bottom. Right it from the side with the CO2 cylinder where it says, "Right here." If you right it from the opposite side, the heavy cylinder may knock you out when the raft turns over. As you right the raft, it may land on top of you. Don't panic. You can push an air pocket into the soft bottom of the raft if you get your nose close enough to the fabric. Lie on your back and work your way out hand over hand. If the raft capsizes while you're aboard, stay calm. You can right it from the inside if all the occupants move as a unit. Boarding the raft from the water can be difficult. You may have to bob down and use the buoyancy of your immersion suit or life jacket to enable you to grab the lifelines inside and pull yourself in. Rafts have inflatable boarding ramps or webbed boarding ladders to help you. Once you're inside, help others get aboard. Use the heaving line stowed near the canopy entrance to help your crewmates reach the raft. You can slip the heaving ring around your arm to create a lifeline if you have to swim to help another crewman. Don't cut the painter if you don't have to. Your vessel may not sink and you may be able to reboard. If it capsizes without jeopardizing the raft and remains afloat, it will provide a sea anchor that keeps you close to your last reported position and makes it a better search target than the raft. If it sinks in shallow water, you may be able to use it as an anchor that keeps you at your last reported position. When the vessel represents a danger to the raft, cut the painter with the safety knife stowed near the entrance of each Coast Guard approved raft. If you operate more than 20 miles offshore, your raft should contain an ocean service pack. For operations within 20 miles, or in lakes, bays, and sounds, you can substitute a smaller limited service pack. Before you go to sea, you should be aware of exactly what your raft contains. The equipment packs should be professionally prepared in advance by an authorized servicing agent of the raft manufacturer. But you bear the final responsibility for ensuring that the equipment aboard your raft meets your needs. Don't allow yourself to be surprised at what the raft does not contain. For example, unless you've made special arrangements with the manufacturer, an approved raft won't contain an EPIRB, or Emergency Position Indicating Radio Beacon, that emits a signal to help rescue units find you. Extra flares and rockets or prescription medicines are other items you might want to have added to your raft. If you have time, augment the equipment pack with items from the vessel. Grab the handheld radio, the vessel's EPIRB, extra food and water, blankets, clothing, whatever's handy and likely to be helpful. Try to throw everything that floats over the side just before you abandon. Throw things like buoys, fenders, planks, coolers, or even plastic bottles. You may have to use them for flotation. Additionally, the floating debris represents a signal that makes you bigger, brighter, and different from your surroundings. If you have time, tie the debris together. If it doesn't represent a potential source of damage, tie it to the raft. An approved raft contains a hand pump, and you should use it quickly to pump up the raft floor and provide added insulation against the cold. On an approved raft, a drogue or sea anchor should be deployed as the raft inflates. A life raft drifts extremely rapidly, and you want to stay as close as possible to your last reported position. Check to see if the drogue is working. There's a spare in the equipment pack on approved rafts. If you don't have a drogue, try to make one out of a bucket or some other material. The service pack contains seasickness pills. Take them, no matter how strong your stomach is. The pitching and rolling of a raft is likely to make everybody sick. After you've used items from the equipment pack, put them back in the bag and keep the bag tied to the raft. You don't want to lose gear in a capsize. Establish a chain of command and set watches. You need a lookout at the canopy entrance and should assign other crewmen to inspect the raft for damage, to bail or pump out water, to treat injuries, and to inventory equipment. If you're the skipper or leader, boosting morale is a crucial part of your job. Displaying the contents of the equipment pack and any other supplies you've been able to bring aboard is a good way to demonstrate that you have resources. Giving people jobs is another way to focus their minds on surviving. But don't waste their energy. Don't permit a crewman who has panicked to threaten the group morale. If there's more than one raft in the water, tie them together. The rafts will ride better in a heavy sea state and be less likely to capsize. You'll have more resources as a group. Morale will be easier to sustain, and you'll make a bigger search target. Select good equipment that meets both legal requirements and your special needs. Make sure that you and your crew know how to use it. Install the raft carefully so it can be launched either manually or in a float-free manner. Keep the painter securely fastened whenever the vessel is at sea. Launch the raft before the emergency reaches the crisis stage. Throw everything that floats overboard before you abandon ship. Grab extra emergency supplies. Wait for full inflation and board from the lowest possible point above the water. Try to board the raft directly without getting wet. Help your crewmates. Don't cut the painter if you don't have to. Be sure the drogue is working to keep you as close as possible to your last reported position. Inflate the floor. Take seasickness pills, post lookouts, and establish a chain of command. Keep your morale high.